I'm going to tell you one number that's often more important than blood pressure or heart rate on this One for the Road. In the words of the immortal Scarface, say hello to my little friend. And I'm talking about MAP, the mean arterial pressure of the patient. It's an innocuous little number that's been appearing on your monitor screen and essentially any automatic blood pressure cuff that you've ever used. The mean arterial pressure is basically the average of the patient's blood pressure throughout an entire single cardiac cycle. Now, some clinicians, they use it regularly. Some of us have never even noticed it. We're like muggles standing beside platform 9 3/4. We're just completely blind to what's going on, and then it's right there in front of us. And if that's you, let me show you. It's right here. So if you're taking a manual blood pressure, you can still calculate it. You can get a very simple app for your phone that'll calculate it for you automatically. And yes, you can even calculate it all on your own using this equation right here, but you're not going to remember it, nor should you. Just get an app because that's way easier to do. Why should you pay attention to MAP? Well, for one, it's a better indicator of end organ perfusion. In shock especially. So blood pressures can sometimes be misleading. With MAP, regardless of if there's a relative hypotension versus an actual hypotension, or if there's a systolic versus a diastolic hypotension, a MAP below 65 means that the patient's end organs are at risk. We need to respond to that. If we're considering anything like permissive hypotension and hemorrhagic shock, or if we're treating that congestive heart failure patient where we want to keep their pressure low, but not too low, if we're treating cardiogenic or septic shock and we're trying to decide how aggressively we need to intervene, if we're treating closed head injury where the patient's systemic pressure is essential to their brain perfusion, and especially anyone getting fluids or especially pressors like dopamine or our epidrips, those are patients where we really can pay attention to MAP, but also it becomes a vital marker of the patient's condition. It's also more accurate. And I know when I say that right now, there's some guy from Club Treat the Patient, Not the Monitor, who wants to warn us that auto cuffs are notoriously inaccurate. And that's true, especially for patients with abnormally high and abnormally low blood pressures. But you know what else is notoriously inaccurate? Manual blood pressures. And one of the ways we can overcome those inaccuracies are making sure that we're using both. I want to tell you something about that monitor or calculated blood pressure. That monitor that you're using or that auto cuff that you're using, it calculates MAP first. And then it extrapolates the systolic and the diastolic pressure. So if you have concerns about the accuracy of an auto cuff or an automatic blood pressure, the MAP should be the first number that you look at. And let's face it, you should be taking at least one manual blood pressure anyway. If that manual blood pressure matches closely to what you're getting on your auto cuff, then you can accurately also pay attention to that MAP and use it clinically. Look, don't misunderstand me. We still need to take blood pressures for lots of reasons. But if you're a MAP muggle, I want you to start looking at that number too, because it is clinically relevant. And the more you get in the habit of seeing it, the more you'll consider it when it really counts. Hey, do you use MAP? Have you found it clinically relevant and useful to you? If so, I would love to hear your comments down below. Let us know what you think about that. And I appreciate you watching. I'm Steve Whitehead, and that was One for the Road.